I have been thinking about how to open this video. I can't even tell you how long, but I'm just going to get right into it. And the whole point of this series and the direction of this YouTube channel is going to be me just putting things back out there and really trying to work on my overthinking, overanalyzing, over being perfectionist tendencies and just getting back out there. So, hi. My name is Lauren Conlon. If you are new here, if you're a returning subscriber, whatever it might be, I used to post YouTube videos like 10 years ago. It's crazy. My first video was like 10 years ago. And I'm in a very different place in my life at the time of recording this. Tomorrow will be my first day back at grad school. I started my first grad program 10 years ago. So I'm actually back at USF. It's a whole full circle moment, which we'll get to. But this is going to be so different. My life is very different than it was when I was in grad school previously. I'm going to be in a very different program, and I'm just a different person. Right? And the reason I wanted to come back on YouTube is I wanted to share as a 32-year-old who runs a business and has relationships and a partnership and all of this stuff, wanted to show what is it like to be doing all of these things and going back to school, because I know that oftentimes just documenting and seeing what other people are doing who are similar to you in maybe every way or in some ways is just nice. It's fun, it's enjoyable to watch. And if I can just help one person or really provide any kind of insights to what I'm doing or what I'm learning, like that is what I want to do. And that's originally what this channel was all about. So kind of just back up. I used to post videos. If you guys are OG followers, you will remember these. But I used to compete as a, NPC and then IFBB bikini professional. And I started just documenting like my preps, right? Like prep vlog, this many weeks out doing this. And I used to just document everything. And I went to a conference and here's what I learned. And what I did in 2015 was actually did a breast aug vlog. And I was just kind of going through the process again, just sharing everything, because when I was looking into getting my augmentation, none of the videos that were out there were answering the questions that I had. And so I was like, well, I'm just going to document everything. And I mean, literally the videos were like me sitting down and being like, okay, so day 2, I did this, day 3, because I'm just like a detail person and I love knowing those kinds of things. And based on the response that I got, and still to this day get, people loved those. And it's so funny because like the production value was like, literally I'm with my camera sitting on the floor in front of like a Christmas tree. Okay. No lighting, just nothing that I mean, not like I really have a crazy setup right now. I have like a little desk ring light and a slightly better camera. So I don't want to pretend like I'm just like this, top of the line production type person. But that's what I used to do on this channel. And there have been so many times that I've wanted to come back to YouTube and do videos that were either short and educational or just kind of like sharing things. And I felt such a resistance for years, like the past several years, I have felt this huge resistance just in general to sharing anything, particularly on social media. In my real life, I have done so much personal work and I have great relationships. I have a great boyfriend. I have like just amazing, just my real life is just so great, but it has been so hard for me to share things on social media, in particular on Instagram. And I was like, you know what, with going back to school and with this program and what I'm going to be learning, I really want to just showcase some of these things, share some of the things that I'm learning, and also just like, how the fuck am I navigating all of this stuff? Because I'll be honest, I am a little nervous. Okay, I think I said it in the beginning, but I've been avoiding doing this video because I was like, okay, maybe a few weeks out, I'll like, a few weeks out, also like competitor brain forever, a few weeks out from starting school. Let me just like start documenting stuff. And then I just like, no, and just push it off. And then I was going to on Friday, right? Because we had our orientation on Friday. And then y'all, I was so overwhelmed, realized how behind I am. So I came home and had to deal with like that kind of stuff. So it was not happening. But I actually think that it's a great opener for the video, right? Like here's the first video and just kind of my thoughts going into this and really why I'm doing it. So I am going back to school to become a licensed mental health counselor. So LMHC, you guys typically would see this, or people say therapist, psychotherapist, counselor. There's a lot of different terms that people use, which to be honest is pretty confusing for everyone involved. But the program that I'm in is the clinical mental health program at USF, and I will be doing the LMHC track. Like that is the goal in the next 5 years. I will become licensed and be able to practice in that way. So I am so excited. Like I have been for the past, probably since like 2017, really having a deeper interest in psychology and behavior and mindset. And, things are just very different than when I first started coaching back in, 2013. The industry is very, very different. And not only is the fitness industry different, but just people are different, right? Like everything is different than, over 11 years ago, right? Which is understandable. But I have gotten to a point where I personally feel like I have reached what I can do within scope to help people in the way that I want to, but I want to do more. And so, like I said, back in probably 2017, I started, researching more of these things and learning and integrating this into my practice. And I would say now we have a huge emphasis at our company and just with all of our clients and any kind of podcast I'm on or any content I create, there's a very, very heavy emphasis on behaviors, mindset, psychology. All of that is just woven in there. So I'm very, very interested in this, but I've gotten, like I said, to a point where I feel like I really would like to take this to that next level. And the only way to really do that is to either partner, with a, therapist or a company, or to do it myself. And to be honest, I am very, very interested in this stuff. So I said, you know what? I want to do this. And I always felt like I was going to get a third degree. And originally, I did the traditional track of like, do your bachelor's and then do your master's, do research. And then the next thing most people do right from there is go to do a PhD. And typically they'll do it in that same field because I've already studied that for, at that point, 6 years. And I just couldn't do that. I didn't want to do that. I was very burnt out from school. And just in general, I just didn't really feel the calling to do that. Now, there's always been like an egoic part of me that's like, you need to get a PhD. Everybody has a PhD, like you should do this. You're such a failure if you don't have this. And obviously, not necessarily grounded in reality, rational thoughts, but that's what like my illogical, ego-based brain would always be telling me. But I knew deep down, like, doing something just to like have have letters and to do stuff was not a good approach, especially something like a PhD. But I always felt this calling to go back to school to learn more. And in particular, I love research, but I also really love working with people, and that's what I've been doing for the past over 11 years, and that is certainly not going to change. So I sat on this for a long time, and I kind of was like, oh, you're just doing this because you think you need to. But it just was like growing and growing and growing. And I knew, and I sat with it for long enough to know that this isn't just like on a whim, I want to do this, right? So I applied to an online program actually. And because at first I was like, well, I don't really want to be able to disrupt my regular life, like because I have so much going on and this and that in the business and traveling and speaking and all that, right? And then something about it was like, no, that just doesn't seem right, doesn't sit right. And so then I started to apply to other programs that were in-person based programs around Tampa. And I actually had thought too, do I want to go the clinical psychology PhD route? Do I want to go the mental health counselor route? And for a minute there, I even toyed with the idea of psychiatry, but I was like, going back to med school right now would just not really be for me. So anyone who's not familiar, to be a psychiatrist, you have to go to the traditional 4-year med school before you specialize in psychiatry. So I was like, that just doesn't really sit well currently with what I want to do. But I really wasn't sure. Do I want to do the PhD? Do I want to do the master's in counseling and take that route? So I was like, you know what? Let me just apply. I'm just going to apply to I applied to 4 programs. So I applied to 2 PhD programs and 2 master's programs. And I was like, I'm just going to see what happens, if I get accepted, if I get denied, and I will just have to make my decision then. And I've always loved research. And since I did my original research with Dr. Campbell, I've wanted to do more, but I also recognize that as much as I love research, ultimately my goal is to work with people, right? So I was like, I would constantly feel this torn part of me. So that's why I said, you know what, just apply, see how it goes, and then you'll see where you get in. And I didn't get into the PhD programs. For anybody who's wondering, clinical psychology PhD programs are insanely competitive. And I certainly, if I wanted to really increase my chances, I would have applied many places. Most people typically for PhD programs applied to like 10 plus. I just did 2. But, applied to those 2, applied to the 2 counseling programs, and I got into both of those. At Nova Southeastern, it's a mostly online program with some in person. And then the USF program is mostly in person with a little bit online. And I was like, you know what? Like, my whole life is online, my business is online, a lot of things that I do just in general are online, content's online. It's like, let me just go back to school and really make this like a whole in-person thing. And also just in general with learning the types of things that I'm going to have to learn for counseling, while I recognize that much of my practice will likely be, distance or potentially telehealth, like all of that. Learning it, I really want to do that in person. So I committed to the program, and we had our orientation on Friday, and I get there and like, because I've been in, I went to USF for grad school, but that was 8 to 10 years ago, right? So things are very different. And I just roll up thinking like, all right, I looked a few weeks ago, nothing was online. So, oh well, I'll just, show up to classes and everything will be fine. Well, apparently there's like this whole group chat. I've missed all the things, like all the syllabi. I need books. I need a new student. Like there's literally all these things that I was like, oh my gosh, I am so overwhelmed right now. But all good. I got it all sorted Friday afternoon. And it was just like such a wake up call of like, oh wait, okay. And then going through all the syllabi, I was like, am I in like over my head with all of this? Like, how am I going to balance everything? Because not only am I starting this program, but I am relaunching my coaching mentorship program tomorrow also. Because why wouldn't I? That's just how I roll. And this is something that I mostly have built out, on the back end course, but there's still a lot to be done there. And I just started getting really nervous. Like, all right, I have my roster of clients and I have, new clients I'm taking on and I'm doing this. But this is what I've signed up for, and this is actually what I'm really, really excited about. And to be honest, I do a lot better when I have like a lot going on, and what it does is it eliminates a lot of the distractions because you simply just don't have time for them, right? This is actually something that I see with clients all the time who either are currently physique competitors or any kind of athletic client in general, or they aren't right now, but they want to get back into it, right? When you are an athlete and you have a competition, there's like this singular focus that you just kind of start to like, everything else just falls away that really isn't important. And I have so many clients who are like, I just want to get back to that level of focus. And I'm like, yes, but it's almost impossible to manufacture that unless we create some other things like that in your life, maybe that aren't, as intensive as that. But anyways, now I'm rambling. But if you guys are used to the channel, this is really what these videos are. I am never going to be a vlogger. Like I just can't. It's just not in me. I've tried for years and years and years. I just don't have it in me. And so a lot of the videos are going to be mostly just this. Might be a little bit of B-roll thrown in there, here and there. But it's mostly just going to be me talking, sitting down and sharing different things. And the whole point of, I guess, like I said, either this series or really just like where the channel direction will be for the next few years is going to be, how am I balancing everything? And, what am I learning? What am I, able to, take from what I'm learning and apply that either, to my life, to clients' lives? How am I balancing everything? Because I know I am certainly not the only person. I posted, I think when I got accepted, a few months ago, and I posted about going back to school as someone who is, older, and I had so many people who were either currently in programs, they had just finished them, or they're thinking of starting as well. So there's a lot of people who are in this kind of same boat. So I know that I am certainly not the only one. So also, if anyone listening is in a program right now, or they just finished one, or you have any advice, drop it in the comments below, please. Anything will be greatly, greatly appreciated. But for me, I knew that going into this program, it is so intense in terms of the amount of credits that I have to take. It is a 60 credit master program, and I believe that I will be doing a specialization, so that I'll have to take another class. It'll be 63 credits. And then in the process, because this is a K-CREP accredited program, I also have to do 2 semesters of practicum. So basically it's a class, and then it's also 15 site hours per week. So for a total of like 300 of those hours. And then my last final semester is a 600-hour supervision process where it's like an internship. So I'll be basically working a 40-hour work week somewhere for my last semester. But because of how many credits it is a like 3 to 4 classes per semester for 6 semesters straight, and then the internship along with the practicum hours too. So it is a very intensive program in terms of like the hours. And so this semester I'm taking 4 classes, and it is a lot of reading and writing and projects and that kind of stuff. So I already have created a little mini schedule. And one of the things is I am very organized and very like I like things a certain way, and I have like my list, and I have this and I have that, but I also can be very, very chaotic. And I am kind of like this combination of both things. And I haven't really had to have a super stringent schedule, because for the past few years, my life has been very, very different. I can work when I want, where I want. I have deadlines for things, of course, but I can do them on my own time. It can be very flexible. I have traveled a ton, for business or speaking or just events, and also some for fun as well. But all of that is changing now, right? And I'm going to have a very set schedule. In terms of when I need to be at school. I also won't be able to travel nearly the same amount as I have been, which is going to be a big change for me. So I set up a whole little plan in terms of like, all right, I'm going to try this for the first month, and then I'm going to reassess. And just like I would tell a client to do, right? Like, let's try this for a few weeks, see if we love it, hate it, what do we want to adjust? But, getting back into a consistent morning routine, getting into consistent training times and days, because I'm going to have a lot less flexibility. And I know for myself over the past few years, because previously when I was in my other programs, I was in school, running the business and competing, right? So I never really had to question, like, would I be making my meals? Would I be training? I have to do that. Like, it wasn't even an option to me as an athlete, and I got everything done, but I haven't thought like that in a while because I haven't been doing that. And for the past few years, I've been working on my own kind of just like personal journey and a lot of my own growth. So that kind of took a back seat, which is totally fine. And I'm very glad that I did that. But again, it's all just part of it, right? Like, I have to get back into this routine and this structure and this schedule. So my boyfriend, Chris, he has helped me put together a training plan. So we have the training plan days. I have my other things that I'm going to do in terms of my cardio or my yoga and my walks and all of that. And so I'm going to start with this little schedule. I made it on Canva. I spent entirely too long creating this whole thing. It's one of those things that I love to do. It's just like a very satisfying thing. Like, oh, I spent an hour on this that I totally didn't need to, but yep, check the box. It's pretty. So I'm going to start with that. And, some of the videos moving forward are going to be me like going through a few of those things of like, hey, this is what's working. This absolutely has been grounding me, centering me, or like, oh my gosh, this is not. So I'm really just making this first video to say like, here's a little background on why I'm going back to school, what is happening, and also, like I said, just kind of putting aside those like perfectionist tendencies, which to some degree I will always have, absolutely, and that's certainly a great like superpower for me in some ways, but it can also just stop me from doing a lot of things. And just the fact of like coming back on here to be like very like open and vulnerable about like my struggles, like presumably that I'm going to have like in school or in relationships or just like in life or whatever I'm dealing with, is going to be hard. But I also know that that is what is most valuable to people. So if I can help people, if I can teach people something through all of this, then that's really what I want to do. So yeah, I guess that's like the first recap. Hey, I'm back. And I was gonna like think of like a series name or, but this isn't really a series. This is just gonna kind of be like my life. So if anyone has a good name for something, everybody loves a good name, right? We all love a good name. But I just wanted to put this up here, and I am definitely feeling a little bit nervous and on edge for the first week, but also like the good nervous. Like, I'm very excited, and ultimately as nervous as I've felt about some of these aspects, I know without without a question of doubt that this is the path for me. And that's why I spent so long really like sitting on this decision before I really made it, or before I really moved forward with it, because I did not want to rush into it and I wanted to feel 100%, like 150% about it. And that's what I do, right? There is not even a question in my mind that like future me is going to be doing this and integrating. Really, I want to be able to integrate like physical and mental health together in a very, very deep and impactful way. And I know that this next, chapter of my life is going to allow me to do that. So as nervous as I am, I'm also very excited and also have this like sense of calm. So it's going to be interesting because going back to school now with the perspectives that I have, just as someone who is, older, right? I've like lived more life. I've had a lot more experiences, but the work that I've done on myself as an individual, I'm very interested to see how that applies to school now and just how I'm able to operate in a very different way than I used to. So, all right, I'm going to stop there so I don't keep rambling. But if you guys have any questions, drop them in the comments. If you guys have any suggestions for me starting this new venture, definitely drop them below because I would love to read and see all of that. And yeah, that's it. 10 years later, still can't intro, still can't outro.